Hello and welcome to HTV. I'm Heather Ramsay. Welcome, Tim.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Appreciate being here. Thank you.
So you are the superintendent of SD70?
I am, yes.
What do you do as superintendent?
Oh, what do I do as superintendent? Well, really, I'm an employee of the Board of Education, and I oversee the school district, so Pacific Rim School District, SD70. Extends from the west coast and Tofino and Ucluelet over to Bamfield and the Valley, Port Alberni, and everything within the Alberni Clayoquot Regional District. And so I oversee the schools and make sure that the school district is operating as it should be.
What led you to become a superintendent?
Well, it's been a long career. I've been an educator for 30 years. I started off obviously as a teacher and moved into a principalship. I moved into school board office, and from there worked my way up from an assistant superintendent to a deputy superintendent to becoming the superintendent. So. I've been in 4 school districts as well, so this is my 4th district on Vancouver Island.
How long have you been a superintendent?
I started as a superintendent just August 1st of this year, so this is my first year as a superintendent.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is actually, yeah. I'm very pleased to be here.
What are some things someone would need to know if they were to become a superintendent?
Well, I think, as I said, it's a 30-year path, so there's a lot to know in terms of just gaining experience and understanding of how school districts operate, really an understanding of how schools operate. And for my job, I work with the senior staff at the school board office, but I also work very closely with principals and vice principals. So having been in their shoes, been in that position, I've got a good understanding of how elementary schools and secondary schools work.
What's the most difficult part of your job?
I guess the most difficult part would be probably dealing with budget cuts. So if we're going through situations where a school district has declining enrollment, and we have to make cuts, that's not really the most pleasurable part of being a district school or a school district leader. So it's probably a difficult challenge. Yeah.
What's the best part?
Every day is the best part. I wake up in the morning excited about my job, being able to support learning across a school district. Being able to go into schools and see students, and certainly here in the Pacific Rim, I have the opportunity to travel, to various parts of the school district, and it's extremely exciting. So, as I said, I'm very thrilled to be here in the Pacific Rim.
Here are 3 questions that were suggested I ask you.
Okay.
What priorities have been established for you as superintendent?
Good, thank you. Well, the Board of Education, again, elected trustees who are my boss, they've laid out some priorities, and really it's around strategic planning, ensuring that as a district that we continue to move forward, working with unionized environments. So in our school district, we've got a teachers union, we have a support staff union, QP. But being able to, and we also have an association of principals and vice principals, and so your principal at your school would be part of that association. And my job is to help maintain smooth operations of all of our schools, and so that's a priority across the district. Building community relations is a really important part, and so I spend a lot of my time out either in the community, working with other organizations, with the city or the districts of Ucluelet and Tofino, the ACRD, or also just building relationships. And a really important part, or a really important aspect of my job, is connecting with First Nations communities, Métis, and with Inuit organizations and learners that support our Indigenous partners within our district as well. Another important part is just building connections. So, as we're coming out of COVID, we're not fully out of it, but certainly with lessening of restrictions over the year here, really supporting our schools to be safe learning environments for all of our staff and all of our students. Good.
What do you see as your priority work?
My priority work within the district here, I would say at this point, and this would go back to student data, student learning. One of the major priorities is around supporting Indigenous learners in our school district. So it's not unique to the Pacific Rim School District, but I would suggest probably across the province, Indigenous learners are learning at a rate, or achieving at a rate that is lower than just our general population. And that to me is a real priority. It's one of the areas that's always been a passion for me. Certainly, and I'll share with you, I'm a band member of the Old Masset Village in Haida Gwaii, and so obviously, just a personal connection to Indigenous people, but also supporting our achievement rates for our Indigenous learners is something that's a high priority for me. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about the strategic direction for the district.
Good, thank you. The strategic direction for our school district right now, so we have a strategic plan that's actually set to expire at the end of June for this year. So we have a plan that's in place. It's a 4-year plan, and as I said, it's going to expire at the end of this year. And right now we have 3 major goals. The first one being literacy goal. We have a numeracy goal, and we have a goal around social responsibility for supporting our students. And we are entering into a phase of redeveloping our strategic plan. So it'll be a new 4-year plan, hopefully in place at the end of June. And as we move through that process, we're looking for a lot of consultation from the community, from our school communities, and from the communities at large. And hoping to develop new goals and new direction for the school district. So our strategic priorities are what guide us. It's what the Board of Education puts in place, and it guides the superintendent's work and all of the work through the school district.
If you could tell parents, teachers, and students one thing, what would it be?
I think the one thing, and I always say this, but this is maybe cliche, but it's not a sprint to the finish line. So I would encourage students to enjoy the process of their learning, to take advantage and be connected with your school communities, and for parents to be, to also have that strong connection with their child's school community, and to be part of the learning journey. So, as I said, with the strategic plan and the development of that, we've got opportunity for parents to be connected in with the learning process and to help guide what's going to be taking place in Pacific Rim.
Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Good. Well, I mentioned a little bit about my background, just Indigenous. I'm, again, from Old Masset Village, have ties to Tsimshian and Metlakatla Village, and I'm also of Scottish and Irish heritage. I'm a father of 3 young men, so I've got three sons along with my wife, and they are turning 27, 24, and 22 coming up here. They're all off at various universities across North America. One just graduated with his master's degree from Carleton University. The other one is studying at Dalhousie University, and our youngest son is actually down in Alabama on a lacrosse scholarship, studying down there. So for my wife and I, we're sort of newly empty nesters, I guess, and with our boys gone and doing their thing. So, our adventures are really based around going to where they're at and supporting them in their learning. I grew up in Nanaimo. I was born in Vancouver, but grew up in Nanaimo, and I still live in Nanaimo. My wife's a teacher down there, so I do the commute over the hump each day. I've got secondary housing here when I need to on days like today for snow days, but other than that, it's a great trip, just coming back and forth. In terms of my career, I mentioned 4 districts that I've worked in. Started my career in Vancouver Island West, so I started in Zabalis and Cayucit, and I had a wonderful experience there. My wife and I moved back to Nanaimo, and I started teaching in Parksville Qualicum. Had a vice principalship and a principalship there, and then moved to Nanaimo probably about 18 years ago. And working in Nanaimo, as I mentioned, I was a elementary principal, worked in the alternate programs as a principal for alternate school for a number of years, was a principal at NDSS for a few years, made a move to the school board office as an assistant superintendent and a deputy superintendent, and here I am in the Pacific Rim as superintendent. So,
Did you do anything before you did schoolwork?
Before I entered into schooling, I had a few jobs. Started at the age 14. I worked in a restaurant. Had a great opportunity as a teenager. I actually worked on a ranch up in Green Lake, which is sort of 70-mile house area. So I did that for 3 summers, and I stayed up there for a year, and I lived on the ranch and worked there as a ranch hand. My dad was an independent tugboater, and I worked on the tugboats as a young man. And then going through school, I had opportunity in university. I worked at Malaspina College at the time, which is now Vancouver Island University, both in the gymnasium, but also with international student programs there before I entered into education. So.
What do you do when you're not working?
What do I do when I'm not working? I would say that I'm an avid outdoors person, and I really enjoy being outdoors. So when I have opportunity, weekends and such, or vacations, I like to get outdoors. I like to fly fish. I like to dirt bike ride, snowshoeing, camping, other pursuits like that. So really anything that's going to get me out into the backcountry and just be part of nature is really what I enjoy doing. So, yeah.
Do you have a favorite thing to do outdoors?
I would say my favorite thing is probably heading to the lakes. I really spend a lot of time doing that. One of my favorite places is probably just being at a river and either fishing or just hiking around in the backcountry. So, as I said, just in my spare time, I spend a lot of time, probably even solo, just hanging around out in the woods. As I said, it's been a great move for me to transition from my previous district to the Pacific Rim School District, and I'm thrilled to be here. Very pleased to be working with the individuals I do at the board office, and also to be working very closely with the Board of Education. It's a great district. I'm thrilled to be here, and I'm looking forward to continuing just to build our progress and time back to this strategic plan to seeing what lays ahead for us for the next few years here. So, yeah.
Well, thank you for coming.
Well, I appreciate being here. Thank you so much.
Welcome, Mike Roberts.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So you do lots of stuff with Totem.
I do lots of stuff with Totem, yes.
So what do you do with Totem?
Well, to begin with, I'm on the Totem committee. I'm the athletic director there at the school, so I'm just part of a team that makes sure that everybody does what they're supposed to do, and that the community gets the great experience of Totem, and the visiting teams get the same thing. It's something that's been 67 years long, and we don't want to do anybody wrong, and we want to make sure that we continue the tradition strong.
How did it start?
It started as a 4-team boys tournament, 1955, I think, if my math is correct. And probably nobody predicted that it would turn out to be what it is today, but here we are.
What are some of the things that happened during Totem?
Oh goodness. So formally, of course, it's a basketball tournament, so we have that first and foremost. Then over the years, 10 years, I think, after Totem began, they started with a Miss Totem competition, which has since changed to a Totem Spirit competition. And those students tried to promote the tournament, the teams, create some excitement in the school. And of course, you've seen that when you go to the games. And then as well, now we have cheerleaders, we have pep band, we have dance team. So we try to involve many different parts of the school so everybody feels like they're part of the whole atmosphere.
How long have you been a part of Totem?
17 years.
What are some of the best things about Totem?
Smiles on people's faces. I like the fact that we can include a lot of the student body, and that we have moved from just a boys tournament to both boys and girls. And as I said before, with the introduction of the pep band and all of the other parts that are part of Totem, people feel like they don't have to be on the court to feel like they're part of Totem experience. People wear a t-shirt, they support, they buy a hot dog, they have fun, they put a sticker on their face, and everybody goes away feeling that they belong there and that Totem is theirs.
So you said you are the athletic director at ADSS.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that mean?
Essentially, I oversee all of the extracurricular sports teams. So we have quite a few. Please don't ask me how many at the moment, but it's somewhere in the upper 20s and 30-something coaches. And at the high school level, sports is very serious, very important for a lot of people, very competitive. And unfortunately, I hate to say it, but very costly. So a big part of my job is making sure that we have the funds that I can move the teams around the province to be where they need to be. Because a lot of our athletes will move on and play in post-secondary institutions in their chosen sport. So if we can't provide them the absolute best opportunity, they don't get that. And we have students that are going away with scholarships to play sports.
How long have you been doing that?
About 15 years now.
What is your favorite thing about being an athletic director?
You get to see a different side of students. So and that would go, I think most coaches would agree, having been able to coach, or now I get to see lots of different teams. When I see them in the hallways, my experience is different than I see them on the court of the field, but it's that relationship building. And with relationship building, there's more trust. And then my experience as a teacher goes a lot smoother.
Do you have a favorite sport?
I do. I like soccer a lot. I like baseball. Baseball is not part of BC School Sports, but it is one of my favorites.
What are your favorite teams?
Everybody knows me out there. I'm going to say the Cincinnati Bengals, and darn it, they lost on the weekend.
So you said you're a teacher.
Yes.
So what do you teach?
I teach leadership class primarily, a few other things, but it's probably my number one thing that I do there at the school.
So what is leadership?
It's lots of different things. There's both junior leadership and senior leadership. Essentially, senior leadership are responsible for most of the fun activities that we do at the school, the events. And I wouldn't say all of the events, but certainly the lion's share of the things that are extra at our school probably are coming out of the leadership class. And the junior leadership class, they're more of a helper role in learning what it takes to be in the senior class. But for them, I teach a lot of confidence building, self-esteem, relationships, things that you have to do to be on a team.
How would someone join leadership?
Well, when you get to the school in grade 9, it's an elective, and so you can simply choose it. And in the senior class, though it is by application, if I've known you and taught you, then things go a little bit smoother. And if I don't know you and I have not taught you, then there's an application that you have to fill out.
What are some of the things you enjoy doing with your family?
Probably anything outdoors. I've got 3 grandkids now, and they keep me busy, and probably one of the reasons I don't play as much sports as I used to, but it's a lot of fun. I like to be in my yard. I like to go for ice cream at the Harbor Key with them in the summertime. So, yeah.
Have you always lived here?
Most of my life. I was not born here. I moved here when I was, I think, in grade 6, going into grade 1.
Where did you live before?
I lived in Cincinnati, Ohio, and I was born in Regina.
What's your favorite part of the valley?
The fact that it's small enough that I know most people. And if I don't know them by name, I know them by face because I've lived here most of my life. And I just said this to my wife the other day when we went out for dinner, because of course we go there and, hi, how are you? How are you? Haven't seen you in a while. There's probably not too many places in town, I say business-wise, that if I go in, I don't know somebody there or the owner. And I think that just speaks largely of being in a small town. And you can go out for dinner in a large city and no one even pays attention to you nor looks at you. But as I said, we went out last Friday and I think I knew the whole place. It's kind of fun.
Do you have anything else you would like to add?
You know, perhaps for the students that are heading into the high school, I can't say enough the importance of doing something extra. Of course, I'm talking about sports tonight, but there's lots of different things. There's a ton of clubs and there's a great band program and there's a musical program that does theater. And my colleagues will probably not like me so much for saying this, but when you get old like us, you don't think about what you did in math class or English class, your academics. Usually, you think about all the extra things that you did. And high school is just a snapshot of time in your life, but something you remember forever. So I always say make the most of it, get involved and do something extra because it's worthwhile.
Well, thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us on HTV. See you next time. Heather Ramsay.